On a worn-out couch sits a bearded middle-aged man. The room was swallowed by decay and defeat. His name is Bob, and he looks like someone life has completely broken. No one knows that 16 years ago, he wasn't called Bob. Back then, his name was Pat, a core member of the radical group Mage 75. By his side was his girlfriend, Perfidia. She was smart, sharp, and decisive. Together they carried out countless high-risk missions. They were once each other's most trusted partners. One day, while Perfidia and Pat were rescuing immigrants held by an officer, Captain Stephen from the army set his eyes on her. His gaze shamelessly swept over her with desire. But Perfidia remained unmoved. She snatched Stephen's cap and gun and forced him to come out with her. She didn't kill him. After the threat, she simply turned and walked away. After the mission, they screamed with excitement inside the car. They soaked in the adrenaline rush that followed another successful operation. For Perfidia, missions and love mattered equally. She bombed the hospital office to stop the abortion ban. She blew up a bank to influence political votes. She and Pat destroyed the city's main power lines. They crazily did what they thought was right. Pat stayed close, sharing in her madness, and celebrated with her. During one mission, someone in a nearby car was watching them through binoculars. That person was Captain Stephen. From the first time he saw her, he was completely drawn to Perfidia. He began stalking her in secret. His eyes traced over her body with hunger, as if he wanted to devour her whole. But in the next second, Pat's hand on her waist shattered his fantasy. Stephen couldn't hold it in anymore. He began waiting for the right moment to strike. The group began preparing for a new wave of attacks. Bombs were planted at 2 locations, 3 blocks apart. They planned to detonate at 7 p.m., right after rush hour. Once everything was set, the operation began. Another girl in the group, May, was assigned to plant a bomb in the courthouse bathroom vent, and her installation went smoothly. Pat and Perfidia went to plant another bomb in the administration building, and as always, Pat kept watch, while Perfidia handled the action. But Perfidia ran into some trouble. It turned out Stephen had been tailing them early on and sneaked up on her while she was setting the bomb. Suddenly, he slammed the stall door open with a bang, and Perfidia froze against the wall, afraid to move because she didn't know if he had a gun. But nothing happened behind her for a long moment, so she finally couldn't help asking,
"What do you want me to do?"
I want you to do your worst.
Stephen didn't care about the bombing at all. He just wanted his hat and gun back. He threatened her to come to a hotel that night, or he'd report her. To avoid being exposed, she had no choice but to go, and Stephen got exactly what he wanted. A few months later, Perfidia became pregnant, but she didn't change at all. She stood there with a huge belly, wildly firing at targets, as if pregnancy didn't affect her at all. She didn't seem ready to be a mother, and even threatened Pat with a baby inside her, saying that if he ever treated her badly, she'd kill the child. Pat could only stare at her helplessly. Soon after, Perfidia gave birth to a baby girl. Days passed by, one after another. They started raising the child like any normal couple. Perfidia and Pat fell into endless arguments. Perfidia felt Pat gave all his attention to the baby. She too needed care after giving birth. She couldn't bear her changed body, couldn't stand the endless pain in her chest, and couldn't understand why Pat didn't care about her.
Am I weird for being jealous of my baby?
Finally, Perfidia reached her breaking point that day. She didn't want her life controlled by the family. She missed her wild and free self, so that day, she packed her bags but saw Pat didn't try to stop her. He even told her she had a responsibility to the baby. At that moment, her resolve to leave grew even stronger. In the end, she heard Pat say,
Do the revolution, baby. Go do it.
Reluctantly, Perfidia still chose to leave. That day, Stephen quietly followed Pat in the supermarket and saw the baby items in his hands. Doubts started rising in Stephen's mind. He asked about the child's gender and name. Pat answered briefly, without turning around. Stephen walked up to Pat and provoked him wildly.
You like black girls? I love them.
Pat stared at him in shock. Watching Stephen's back, his eyes started watering. He seemed to sense something. That day, Perfidia organized another bank raid. This time, it was different from previous raids. At the start, she killed an innocent person. Seeing a guard reach for his gun, she shot to protect herself. The gunfire quickly drew nearby police. Perfidia and the team ran out and drove away. This mission wasn't as smooth as before. Her car collided with others at high speed. They had no choice but to abandon the car. While they were on the run, the police surrounded them. She ran desperately into a nearby alley, but the cops had already blocked the way. Perfidia was pinned against a wall, unable to resist. She had nowhere to go. They were ultimately arrested. These long-wanted members were finally captured. The cops celebrated shamelessly. Perfidia could only cover her face helplessly. Perfidia was imprisoned. To stay alive under Steven's threats, she handed over the group's list. Pat learned she was caught, and to protect his child, he prepared to leave the city with the baby. Before leaving, the group gave him 2 signal devices. If they were within 200-300 meters, a song would play so he could locate someone if the child was in danger. They also gave him an envelope containing secret codes. He was told to memorize it. Then, the envelope was burned. Almost all the other members were arrested because of Perfidia's betrayal. May, who joined previous raids, sensed something wrong in the supermarket. She tried to escape through the back door, but waiting for her was a cold bullet. Other members were caught or killed. Because of this, Steven got promoted. One day, Steven was taken by his boss to a hidden governor's suite. The governor and his associates invited Steven to join their club. The club focused on finding threats and monitoring dissidents. Ironically, the so-called Christmas Adventure Club had racial rules. Listening to his boss talk about wealth and freedom and how joining would put him above others, Steven's sense of superiority was almost uncontrollable. He denied the one-night stand with Perfidia. Even denying the child existed, he said no, but nervously smiled. He immediately accepted the club's invitation and agreed to the boss's investigation of him. After some time, the wave of catching group members passed. Perfidia was picked up from prison by Steven and secretly taken home. Steven wanted Perfidia to hide her identity, to try living a normal life, but Perfidia couldn't do it. She took the chance when Steven left to escape to Mexico. When Steven returned with flowers, he was met with an empty room and a note on the window saying 16 years later, Pat went into hiding to avoid the military and gave himself a new name, Bob. He raised his child alone. Unlike before, he no longer contacted the group or made bombs. He became a middle-aged man, drunk and on drugs. His mind was ruined and his memory poor. For 16 years, his daughter was everything to him. He gave all his love to his daughter. His daughter Charlene had good grades and practiced taekwondo in her spare time. Bob didn't allow her to have a phone, fearing the military might track her and endanger her life. In Charlene's eyes, Bob was a strict father, so she didn't really like him. Just when Bob thought life would remain calm, danger struck again. Steven captured Perfidia's brothers and learned Bob and Charlene's new address from him. To pass the club's review, Steven wanted to find Charlene. He didn't want the boss to find out he had a one-night stand with a group member or possibly fathered a mixed-race child. Steven, to protect his job and life, decided to quietly capture Charlene, and if she was his child, he would deal with the problem. The group quickly learned Perfidia's brother was caught and that Bob and his daughter were in danger. They immediately sent people into Charlene's school. Luckily, they had given Bob 2 signal devices earlier. In the bathroom, Charlene suddenly heard the signal. Bob had told her before, if someone gave the correct signal, she could trust them. Charlene was quickly taken from school by the group. They intended to hide her somewhere safe. Bob was devastated when he learned Charlene was in danger. He secretly escaped through an underground passage before the military found him. Steven arrived too late and didn't see Bob, but from Charlene's childhood photos on the wall, he knew it was Bob's house. Bob's road to finding his daughter was anything but smooth. He first forgot the secret code used to contact the organization. Without the code, the organization refused to tell him where Charlene was hiding. Unable to recall the password, Bob completely lost it. He told the operator that years of drinking and drug abuse had ruined his memory, but the operator didn't believe a word he said. He broke down screaming, cursing almost everyone and everything, but without the code, no one in the organization would help him. The streets were crawling with police and military looking for him. Yet Bob had no information about his daughter at all. His phone was dead, and he couldn't find a charger anywhere. Left with no choice, he went to ask Charlene's taekwondo coach for help. After hearing the situation, the coach agreed to take him home. After all the trouble, Bob finally managed to charge his phone. But when he called the organization again, he was once again stopped by the same question. Bob completely collapsed in despair.
This is a key tenet of the rebellion sect. I'm surprised you can't name it. I don't know if you...
Luckily, the operator's supervisors happened to be Bob's old friend. A friend asked Bob what kind of woman he liked. This time, Bob finally got the answer right, and at last, he learned where his daughter was hidden, even with the exact location. Bob was still furious. He lashed out at the operator again, venting all his rage.
Fuck you! You obviously don't have kids, you fucking idiot!
Meanwhile, danger was closing in fast on Charlene. After failing to find Bob, Steven chose to surround Charlene's school. He used the same tactics he once used against Perfidia to pressure Charlene's friend. To avoid being detained, the friend admitted Charlene had a phone. and handed the number over to Steven. On the other side, the operatives who took Charlene were furious. They had asked her before leaving if she had a phone, and she had denied it. Angrily, they scolded her, and then threw the phone out of the car. But Steven still managed to track her location through the phone. They guessed she would be taken all vessel to the only endpoint on that road, a church, and rushed toward her last known location. At the same time, Bob was still fleeing across rooftops with the coach's friend, but years of drugs and alcohol had made him slow and clumsy, and he couldn't keep up. Sure enough, the next second, Bob lost his footing and fell straight off the rooftop. Luckily, a tree broke his fall, and he wasn't seriously injured. But just as he got up to run, he was immediately taken down by a military taser. Bob was captured by the military. Luckily, after hearing the news, Charlene's coach quickly contacted a friend at the hospital. Not long after, Bob was quietly released by the coach's friend at the hospital. Bob going wild with joy when he sees the coach. After bringing Charlene to the church, the operatives believed she would be safe, but in reality, she was getting closer and closer to danger. As soon as Charlene arrived, she heard news about her mother. In the nun's words, her mother was a traitor. For Charlene, who had never met her mother, this was a devastating blow. She couldn't accept it and curled up on a bed in the corner, crying silently. Before long, Steven found Charlene. His men tied Charlene up. Steven stood in front of her, holding a DNA testing kit. He forced her to take a paternity test with him. Charlene stared at the man in confusion, but slowly she realized something was wrong. Steven told her that if the lines on the screen merged into one, Charlene didn't believe him at all. She insisted that she already had a father, and her dad would never be as stupid and pathetic as Steven, but the result was devastating. The test confirmed that Steven was indeed her biological father. When Steven saw the single line on the screen, he completely broke down. He roared in rage, calling Charlene a bastard. Tears instantly filled Charlene's eyes. She couldn't believe the man who'd raised her for 16 years wasn't her real father. Meanwhile, after evading the police, Bob finally reached the area near the church where Charlene was. He searched desperately with binoculars, only to see Charlene being taken away by Steven. Bob immediately realized his daughter was in danger. He got into his car and stayed right on Steven's tail. At that moment, Steven felt no joy at all about finding his daughter. To him, rank and reputation mattered far more than family. The two cars raced after each other down the road, but Steven reached the destination first. He went to find a former colleague of his. He asked his friend to kill Charlene for him, and he was willing to pay a huge reward. But his friend had a moral line. He would never kill a child. Seeing how firm his friend was, Steven had no choice but to give in. He asked him to deliver Charlene to another nearby military base. The people there would take care of killing her. Tempted by the payment for simply delivering her, the friend agreed. Just as Steven believed, everything had gone perfectly and was driving back, a hitman suddenly pulled up beside his car. Before Steven could even react in confusion, the hitman opened fire and shot him. Steven's car swerved violently and crashed into the desert beside the road. Seeing the smoking wreck, the hitman assumed Steven was dead and drove off to hunt for his next target, Charlene. It turned out Steven's superiors had discovered he had a mixed-race daughter, which violated one of the club's strictest taboos. They were furious over Steven's deception. They sent assassins to kill both him and Charlene on the way back. Meanwhile, Steven's friend couldn't bring himself to kill Charlene, who was just a child, but for the payment, he still delivered her to the military base Steven had named. After returning to his car, guilt caught up with him, and he turned back, gunning down every soldier on sight. In the chaos, Charlene quietly escaped, twisted her bound hands to the front with sheer flexibility. She then stole Steven's friend's car and sped away, but trouble wasn't over. Charlene was soon spotted by the assassin, sent after Steven. She saw a car tailing her closely in the rearview mirror. She realized she was being hunted. Watching the uneven road ahead, an idea struck her. She slammed on the brakes and stopped in the middle of the road. Then she sprinted toward the roadside dunes and dropped flat. The assassin, speeding too fast to react, crashed straight into Charlene's abandoned car. Seizing the moment, Charlene fired several shots at the assassin. As he stepped out of the car, the hitman was killed on the spot. With the danger gone, Bob finally caught up and found his daughter. When Bob saw her, he was overwhelmed with joy. But to his shock, he realized she was his own biological daughter. Just like before, Bob couldn't remember the code at all.
Green Acres, Beverly Hillbillies, and Hooterville Junction!
Okay, it's your dad.
Charlene felt both angry and wronged, her emotions crashing all at once. After surviving so many dangers, she finally broke down like a child, sobbing in her father's arms. The scene shifts. Steven is not dead. He returns to face questioning from his superiors. Absurdly, Steven pins all the blame on Perfidia. He even claims that she assaulted him instead, but his superiors no longer trust him at all. Just when Steven believes he's finally been accepted into the club, he is poisoned to death in the very office he once dreamed of occupying. At the end of the story, Bob finally confesses to his daughter that he and her mother were once members of a radical group. He explains that he never told her about the past because he wanted her to live a free, unburdened life. Bob then takes out a letter Perfidia once wrote to Charlene. After reading it, Charlene finally feels the love of the mother she never met. In the end, Charlene becomes a member of the radical group herself, and she continues striving toward the better world she believes in.